Have you ever stopped to think about what the word ecology actually means? It seems kind of academic, right? But it's actually something deeply personal. At its heart, ecology is the study of our home. And today, we're going to unpack what that really means for us and the world around us.
So let's break down the word itself. It comes from the Greek oikos, which means home, and logia, the study of. So yeah, ecology is literally the study of home. It's the science of how every living thing, from the tiniest bacteria to the biggest blue whale, interacts with each other and with their physical world. It's all about connection.
And the grand stage where all this drama, this connection unfolds, well, that's what we call an ecosystem. It's the whole shebang, the community of living things in the physical place they call home, all working together.
Okay, so if ecology is the rulebook and the ecosystem is the playing field, what are the actual pieces on the board? What are the fundamental building blocks that make this whole system of life tick?
It really boils down to two main categories. First, you've got the abiotic components. Think of these as the non-living parts of the stage: the soil under your feet, the water in the river, the climate in the air. Then you have the biotic components. That's all the living stuff, every single plant and animal you can think of.
Now let's zoom in on the living, or biotic side of things for a second. Even here, we can split everyone into two major roles. You're either a producer or you're a consumer.
Producers are the absolute foundation of the entire system. A tree is a perfect example. They're like the original solar-powered factories, taking sunlight, air, and stuff from the soil and turning it into their own food. They literally produce the energy that fuels everything else.
And then you've got the consumers. This is basically everyone else, from a tiny insect to a massive bear. These are the organisms that can't make their own food. So how do they get their energy? Well, just like the name says, they consume other organisms.
And this creates a clear flow of energy, what we all know as the food chain. It kicks off with producers, like our trees. They get eaten by primary consumers, say a deer. And that deer might then become lunch for a secondary consumer, like a lion. Simple, right? But here's the wild fact. This energy transfer is super inefficient. Only about 10% of the energy from one level actually makes it to the next. That's why the world has way more plants than it has deer, and way more deer than it has lions.
Now, this incredibly complex web doesn't just spring into existence. It's a delicate balance, a true masterpiece that's been carefully crafted and refined over immense spans of time. And a really crucial thing to understand is that this balance isn't static. It's not frozen. Ecosystems are always changing, always adapting. But, and this is the key, those changes are meant to be gradual. Nature is constantly tweaking and adjusting itself, but it does it slowly, over generations.
I mean, just look at this process. It's called ecological succession. You can start with nothing but bare rock. Over centuries, tiny pioneer species like lichens start to break it down. Then, grasses and shrubs can take hold. And eventually, after thousands, yes, thousands of years, you can get a stable, mature forest, a climax community. It's the ecosystem in its final, most resilient form, an absolute masterpiece of patience and time.
So what happens when a force shows up that isn't gradual? What happens when a system that took millennia to build gets slammed with massive change in just a few decades? This, my friends, is where we enter the picture.
You know, an ecosystem is amazingly resilient. It can bounce back from huge natural disasters, fires, floods, even volcanic eruptions. It knows how to adjust. But the human factor, that's a totally different kind of pressure. The big question is, can the system recover from us?
To really get a handle on this, let's look at a simple, real-world example. It's a little cautionary tale about frogs.
So check this out. It's a classic domino effect. In the 1980s, frog legs suddenly became a hot export item from India. This led to massive hunting. With way fewer frogs around to eat insects, the pest populations just exploded. And the result? Widespread crop failure. By pulling out just one tiny piece of the puzzle, the whole system started to wobble.
And trust me, this is not an isolated incident. The frog story is powerful, but you see this same pattern play out all over the world with all kinds of species. Let's take a look at a much bigger one, the tiger.
Let's rewind the clock to the early 20th century. It's estimated there were over 100,000 tigers roaming wild across Asia. Just try to picture that, 100,000, an absolutely incredible number.
And today, that number has crashed to around 4,000, a drop of more than 95%. That is what rapid, human-driven change looks like in stark numbers.
The stories of the frog and the tiger aren't just sad anecdotes. They're symptoms of a much bigger issue. They're examples from a whole catalog of disruptions caused by our human footprint.
And the threats are everywhere. We've got deforestation, clearing ancient forests for cities and farms. There's pollution, fouling our rivers, soil, and air. The widespread use of pesticides that kill way more than just the pests they target. Not to mention huge industrial accidents like oil spills and the slow creeping poison of heavy metals in our environment. Every single one is a major blow to that delicate balance.
The sheer scale of this is hard to wrap your head around. According to CITES, the international body that regulates wildlife trade, in India alone, we're talking about 24,000 species of plants and 3,000 species of animals that are threatened with extinction. Each one of those is a unique thread in the tapestry of life, and we're seeing them snap, one after another.
And that brings us to the final lingering thought for today. We've seen how nature is this powerful, self-correcting system that can adapt to almost anything, given time. So the question we're left with is a heavy one. What does it mean for our future and the future of our home if we are the one disruption that nature can't correct for?